My name is Paul Morgano. I am a volunteer fireman. I decided to join the fire department because my dad was a fireman and my brother were firemen. So I just went along with the family and joined the fire department. Thank Dad joined the fire department back when my father was in his 20s. There wasn't much to do in the town, so the fire departments were like social clubs. Almost every town had two fire departments. One for the nationalities. One would be for Italians or Jewish or Irish, or they were broken up into races usually way back when. So my father joined Firehouse number 2 in West Long Branch because they wouldn't let him join Firehouse number 1 because he was Italian. I've been a volunteer fireman for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and I was a junior fireman for 5 years. Most people in the fire department, when they started out, were the misfits of the town. They weren't doctors, they weren't lawyers, they were just basic people. That most of the construction workers or union guys or guys that made a living. I drive a truck, landscape guys, but your Wall Street guys and your doctors and your lawyers really don't have the time to do all the training. I mean, you have there's a few exceptions. I also joined 2 years before me, and by the time myself and my brother joined, the ethnic had kind of been washed away out of the fire departments. I also joined Long Branch Fire Department. I was the first Italian in an all-Irish fire department. And after we broke the ice there, they took more Italians in and different ethnic groups. So now it's normal. There's all kinds of different people in the fire departments now. Boy, Monmouth College. Monmouth College fire is where I lost my best friend. It was 1984. It was July 3rd. It was an elevator fire, and we went in the building to do a search and ventilate the rooms. And my best friend, who was with me, Michael Thorne, opened up a door, which was an elevator shaft, walked in, and fell 48 feet. I was 20 at the time. He was 19. So it was the worst fire I've been to. And it's hard burying one of your brothers. Yeah, after that, you find out who your friends are in the fire department, and there are a lot of them. And then the weirdest thing was the next time you heard the fire whistles ring, you didn't know whether you were going to get up and go or just stay in bed. And after the first time, when 10 or 12 of us showed up, you knew what you were going to do. Everybody's dream in the volunteer fire department is to become an officer, which you run the operations at a fire scene, and to one day become fire chief. In 2003, I was assistant fire chief. In 2004, I was fire chief. It was a very big honor for me. Never thought I would get there. I never thought I would do it, and I did it. And it's just an accomplishment that you could always look back on. Michael's father held the Bible for me as I got sworn in. I'm still very close with the family. We do a charity run every year for him. And we donate about $8,000 to $10,000 worth of scholarships a year in his name. So it was a good day. When you're young, you like to answer fire calls. As you get older, you just go to the big one. When 9/11 happened, I worked for Coors. I still work for Coors Beer as a driver. I was delivering beer in Long Branch when I saw the first plane hit or I was delivering, and the guy said, "Come look at the TV, a plane that hit the buildings." So he said, "Oh, it's a small plane," and I looked at it and I said, "No, it's not a small plane." I said, "It's an act of terrorism." I called my father. I said, "Go to the school and get my 2 kids out of school," because I knew I was going to be in New York City by the end of the night. By the afternoon, myself and about 15 of my friends from Long Branch and West Long Branch Fire Department made our way to Highlands to the ferries. They were doing decontamination of people coming off the boats, spraying. A friend of mine that I went to school with was a captain of one of the boats, and we were in contact with one of our friends in the city that was a fireman, and he kept calling and saying, "We need help, we need help, we need help." So we made a connection with the Waterways ferry, and 15 of us went up on the ferry about 2:30 to New York City. What I remember most is when we were coming under the Verrazano Bridge, there was a sailboat sailing in the harbor like nothing was happening. The guy was just out there for, maybe that was his relief of the day, out there in a sailboat. And then as you came under the Verrazano Bridge, 2 Coast Guard gunships came up to the ferry with their machine guns and sidearms and everything drawn out, and they let us pass because they knew, we were firemen, or the ferry was going to cart people out of the city. And then we arrived at South Street Seaport. As we were trying to dock the boat, the people were just jumping onto the boat to get out of the city. It was a scene out of like Dunkirk during World War II, is what it reminds me of. The people trying to get out from the city of Dunkirk, and we were trying to go in. We checked in at a firehouse right in South Street Seaport. Being on site at the World Trade Center was very. It's hard to describe. You could take the 10 worst things you've ever seen in your life times 10, and you wouldn't even get to the point where we were. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. You couldn't tell the difference between body parts or building parts, or there was no office furniture. There was just millions and millions of pieces of paper flying around. There was like nothing that was associated with being in an office. There was no books. There was no TVs. There was no desks. There was no chairs. Everything was just polarized. And you saw the mangled fire trucks and the equipment. And when you got into the city, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And then every once in a while, the wind would change and the sun would shine down, and you would hear the fighter jets fly over New York City, and everybody would run for cover because you didn't know what was happening. We were searching some piles, and they gave you a little bucket, little 5-gallon pail that you would get at Home Depot, and this was to look for pieces of people, fingers, whatever you could find, you put in a bucket. After the first hour, it just was like picking up trash. It was so bad. The biggest part that we found was a torso. Makes you appreciate life a little better.